All right. So for today's Wellness Wednesday, um, I wanted to talk about what I think is a pretty. If you're going to be somebody who's posting content, you're going to be trying to help people out in the world, giving advice or whatever. Um, I feel like at some point somebody should address the question: Why should you listen to me? Like, why me? I think it's a worthwhile question. It's a question I ask when somebody wants to give me some advice. So, to that end, I wanted to share a little bit about myself personally, my intentions, my methods, my experience, and why would you want to listen to me? Um, and the other thing is that I guess I want to first start off by saying that when I put out a lot of content like this on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, um, the goal is to share my experience or things that work for me and also things that I've learned that work for other people. And the goal would be that you could take that and plug it into your life if you want to, or however you see fit. Um, so it's not necessarily like I'm running around trying to tell everybody they have to live their lives this way. I'm just saying if you got a problem in your life and you haven't found a solution for it, maybe there's a solution right out there that's just that you haven't thought of. The same thing has been true for me. A lot of things in my life have changed for the better, and it's stuff that I hadn't thought of until somebody came along and showed me a different way to do things. Um, so first things first, I think that you know my intentions maybe aren't always clear to people. I think that a lot of people don't understand like what kind of person I am. I play music for a living, and I got the shop.com stuff, and I've always had kind of a polarizing personality. People tend to really love me or really hate me. Um, and I was talking to my sweetheart Jen recently, and she said that for a lot of people, she doesn't think that maybe they know me as well as I think they do. I like to think of myself as a very transparent, open person, but apparently that doesn't always come across. So I was hoping that I jotted down a few notes here. I was hoping that maybe I could clear some things up. First of which is my intentions. When I do anything out in the world these days, my intent is to improve the world around me. And the reason for that is pretty simple. It's because I want to see improvements in the world around me. It feels good to do good things. It feels better than most things, you know. Um, and I've suffered a lot in my life. I know what suffering feels like, and so I don't like watching other people go through it, especially if they don't have to. You know, it's something that I didn't really even know was a big like motivator for me in my life until a few years ago. Um, I guess maybe 10 years ago. But that's the thing is that I look around in the world these days and I'm like, nah, that thing's that those people are suffering or that's messed up. People are having a hard time. And then I'm like, I see kind of the mechanism of how it happens, or I'll learn about an issue, and I'll study up on it, and it'll be plain to see that, oh, this is very stupid. These people don't need to be going through this kind of problem. That's an easily fixable problem. And and so wherever I can, I like to fix the problem. I subscribe to a kind of a see a need, fill a need kind of philosophy, and keep moving forward. And so that's it. That's like my deal is that's pretty much it. If you ever come across me and I got some suggestion for you or some ideas, or if you ask me for my advice, the place I'm coming from is just I want the world to be better, healthier, happier, more peaceful. And any knowledge that I gain along the way that either helps me with that or has helped other people, I like to pass that on. Because what's the point in keeping it to myself? Um, so to that end, I have made it a point to learn a lot from my own experiences, my positive experiences, my negative experiences, my successes, my failures, things like that. And so uh, I learned along the way too that I wasn't always like that. I wasn't always mindful of deliberately learning from my experiences. When I was younger, and maybe you can relate to this, when I was younger, I just reacted to life. You know what I mean? I didn't take a lot of agency. I actually did a video a little while back about this subject of taking your agency. So, looking at yourself and saying, oh, why do I do those things? Why did I make that stupid mistake? Instead of just lamenting that I made the mistake, I started, as I got a little older, I started like analyzing it. Like, hey, why did I do that? Because that was pretty stupid. And like looking back on it, it seems like it's out of character, but I clearly did that thing. So something must have compelled me to do that. And so digging in and asking those tough questions about myself, and asking those tough questions about other people, like, oh, why is there a Wall Street collapse? Why is the housing market collapsing? How did that happen? So starting to ask the tough questions that sometimes you don't want to hear the answers to. But I found that by asking those tough questions and not shying away from the real answers about that, I was able to build or move past certain kind of blockages that I had in my life, or correct mistakes that I had made, or avoid them in the future, all because I kind of sucked it up and was willing to hear the truth about myself, or willing to see the truth about myself or others. And so that methodology has really evolved into a kind of simplifying operational approach for me, focusing on a cause and effect analysis in my life. So that is, I kind of walk into each situation that I come across every day, and I just think of it in terms of cause and effect. Like, if I do this, if I go this way, what do I think is going to happen? What do you think will happen? And so when you look back on hindsight, you kind of sound like cynical about it, like, oh, what did you think would happen if you dropped that bomb, or if you drank all the booze that one night, or whatever. I mean, like, what did you think would happen? And it's but it's also something that can be used to look into the future. So instead of what did you think would happen, it's what do you think will happen. And so looking at my life in those terms of cause and effect has changed things profoundly for me, in the sense that I'm a happier person. Maybe I'm not as exciting as I used to be. Maybe, I don't know. But I am, I make more responsible decisions, and my life goes more smoothly. It's more peaceful and relaxing. I feel healthier and stronger than I ever have, And so I see other people making the same kinds of decisions that I used to make, and they get the same kind of results that I used to get, and I was never happy about it, and they complain about it, and they're not happy about it. So, when I look at that, I'm like, okay, that's even further confirmation that this kind of think about the consequences of your actions, and think about the consequences of things that happen in the world. Look at it as a mechanism, cause and effect. And so in doing that, I've been able to take control of my life and do good things with it when I want to do good things, or stay away from bad things when I want to, stay away from them, instead of just having things happen to me all the time, or just randomly doing things and not understanding why I'm doing them. So, I guess that segues me into my next point, which is, why would you want to listen to me? The short version is that my life is pretty good now, my family's healthy and happy, despite dealing with a collection of, typical life issues, including but not limited to chronic illness, financial restraints, family and friends who have sometimes very serious issues, things like that. So, I'm a regular person like anyone else, and but things tend to go well. I've been able to make the most of not a lot of money for the last few years. These are like, I'd love to be able to show somebody how to have a better quality of life without having to get a bigger paycheck, because sometimes that's not going to happen right away. But that doesn't mean that your life has to constantly be in a state of decline just because you don't have more money coming in right now. So little things like that. Like, I've learned how to make the most of what I have, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And again, like, I think that the whole purpose of human communication is to be able to share these things. Like, way back in the day when it was hunter-gatherer, society, if you learned a new way to hunt a buffalo, that worked better than the way everyone was currently doing it. Humans evolved communication to this sophisticated state that it is, so that you could pass that lesson on to somebody else. Oh, if you do it this way, you kill the buffalo more easily, and you burn less energy trying to take it down, or oh, those berries are poisonous, so don't go for them, and this is exactly why. So these kinds of communication tools that we have as a species are directly evolved for the purpose of learning from other people. So I like to this day, I am always in an ongoing state of being willing to learn from other people, especially if they're getting the results that I want out of their life. So I feel the same thing ought to be true here. I mean, like, if I'm learning these lessons, who am I to not pass that on? I mean, that's literally why we have communication at all to the sophisticated degree that we do. That's why language exists. Let's see here. Oh, so lately I've been talking a lot, as per this is Wellness Wednesday. I'm actually filming this a little bit earlier, but we'll be releasing this on Wellness Wednesday. So when I talk about health, what makes me qualified to give advice? I think that's a good question. Now, okay, so part of my philosophy is this, that Western medicine, Eastern medicine, and alternatives, they all have their place. And I think it's important to understand, like, it's not this nebulous, ooh, there's a place for Western medicine here and Eastern medicine there. No, there are specific applications, again, going back to that cause and effect way of looking at things, that can inform when is a good time to use Western medicine and when is not a good time to use Western medicine. When is it a good time to use naturopathy? When is it not a good time? And so from my life experience, again, because I feel like if somebody's going to take my advice, it may as well be candid, honest advice, and it may as well be informed from my life experience. So in my case, when I was an infant, I was born with a variety of birth defects, and thank goodness for Western medicine, the surgeons that operated on me were able to save my life, and there's no doubt about it. If it weren't for them, I would have died. That being said, they also, in doing the surgeries that it was required on an infant to keep me alive, there was collateral damage in my body that has since damned me to a life of chronic pain and disability and certain degenerative conditions. And so there is a trade-off. So then, at some point a few years ago, I stopped and I really asked the question. I'm like, well, that's great that they saved my life, but nobody asked me if that's what I wanted. And so now here I am, 30-something years later, dealing with the fallout from them saving my life. And so there are some people who have, terminal illnesses and they're just not getting better and whatever, and it's a tough thing. It's like, well, which is more important to you, your longevity of your life or your quality of life? And so these were some tough questions that I was kind of having to grapple with, and it's not that it matters now because I'm here and I'm alive, and my philosophy is may as well make the most of it. But it was really tough, looking at that and saying, yeah, thanks for saving my life, but, I'm paying a price for it, I guess, is my point. And that's something that happens often with the miracles of modern medicine, especially surgery and pharmaceuticals. So, and you don't have to take my word for it. If all you have to do is watch one of these commercials for these pharmaceuticals that are being peddled out to the public, like I said, you don't have to take my word for it. Just watch the commercial or read up on it. And, I love it. Out of a 30-second commercial, there'll be, 10 to 15 seconds of it will be talking about, how this, in this kind of abstract way, could improve your quality of life or whatever. And they'll use words like, it may improve your lung capacity. If it's like, say it's an inhaler, it may improve your lung capacity. And then they'll go into a tirade for the rest of the advertisement talking about all of the horrifying side effects that, oh, this thing will relieve, may relieve your pain, but has also been known to cause, vomiting and fibromyalgia and cancer. I just saw a commercial for some new pill or whatever, some new pharmaceutical drug, and they said that lymphoma was one of the potential side effects. So they want to sell you this thing that might help you with your pain, but also might cause, you know. And so being mindful of this trade-off, I think, is something that has improved my quality of life. But more than that, it improves the quality of lives of a lot of people. It's just something that people don't get to talk about very much in a mainstream setting because of the pharmaceutical companies, and I'm not going to get too much into detail on that. I could some other time if you want me to, but suffice it to say that Western medicine, as amazing as it can be for certain applications, has many horrifying trade-offs a lot of the time. And so then it begs the question, can this be accomplished differently? Can we heal the body, create wellness in a different way that doesn't have such a tremendous side effect, that doesn't have such a tremendous downside? That's the question that I've been asking for the last few years, and I'm happy to say that there are many alternatives to, like if you've got asthma, there are many ways that you can deal with asthma that don't involve pharmaceuticals, and they can be incredibly effective. Now, are you going to hear this from your doctor? Probably not. And there's a lot of reasons that might be the case. Some of them are genuinely just misinformed. Some of them are in the pockets of pharmaceutical companies, and of them, I don't think they don't do it on purpose necessarily. Sometimes they can't afford to say no, or sometimes they do. Sometimes people are just in it to make some money, and that's just, it's the way it is. But that's the way it is with anything. So my point, I guess, if anything, is just to say that when I'm talking about these things, if you're on some pharmaceutical regimen and you're having terrible side effects, it's costing you an arm and a leg, or it's not working for you, not only is there no shame in looking for other options, but I would say that that's the obvious choice. If it's not working, why wouldn't you want to try something else? People are having success with cannabis, treating seizures, treating cancer, treating all these different things, and you want to say curing cancer? No, I would say no. I would say that when you stop and think about it, and this is something I'm going to go into detail, I think in a subsequent episode here, but cancer is not like influenza, right? Influenza is a disease. That's an invading force coming into your body, trying to appropriate your tissues, and as a byproduct, it does damage to your body. Whereas cancer is a metabolic disorder. It's something that your body is doing to itself. It's malfunctioning. It's not an invasion, it's a malfunction. And so it's not surprising then that something like cannabis that can influence how your body's metabolic processes work could have a profound effect on systemic metabolic issues inside your body. And it would make sense that cannabis maybe wouldn't work so well dealing with the flu. So there's lots of things like that. You just gotta think. You gotta think objectively about it. You gotta set aside. Like, I think skepticism is great, but cynicism not so much. When I look at skepticism, I think somebody who doesn't just believe everything they're told blindly. Cynicism, the way I look at it, is somebody who refuses to believe anything they're told, no matter what evidence there is. So I think it's important to err on the side of skepticism without, clouding it with the emotional equivalent of skepticism, which is cynicism. And so, let's see here. Yeah. The only other thing is just that, like, I want to let people know that the world, as far as I see it, has a lot of potential to be an amazing, beautiful, healthy, happy place. And I think that, at least my view on it, is that we ought to have some higher standards for ourselves and for each other. Meaning, if there's a problem that's ongoing or that's happening, if it can get solved, it should get solved, and let's do it. And if it's not getting solved with the old way of doing things, then the obvious choice is to replace it with a new way of doing things or a different way. If you're, to that end, like if you're still riding around in a horse and carriage and wondering why, you can't keep up in the world, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, like, the obvious choice is get rid of the old and get the new. And not only has it served me well, but it's something that I know serves other people well when they're willing to embrace that. So it's something that I like to, I guess, broadcast out into the world. I'm not gonna, I can't force anybody to change the way they live their lives, and I don't think I would even if I could. But the reason for that is because you can't. People are going to change. They want to change. It has to be internalized. You can't force somebody to change who they are or whatever. But I think people can change and evolve and grow and improve their lives, whether it's financially or their relationships or with their health or whatever. So these improvements can be made, and so my goal is to be a voice of progress and a voice for solutions and maybe for thinking outside the box, because a lot of the problems that people are dealing with, they're doing their best, and they're trying to solve the problems with what tools they think they have available to them. And so a lot of times my goal is to be the guy saying, hey, you got a lot of tools there, and that's all well and good, but you got all these other tools over here that you're not using. So maybe you don't have to suffer. Maybe you don't have to struggle so much. Maybe it's just a matter of using different tools to fix the problem. And so that's it. I want to live in a better world. I want to live in a world where people are happy and healthy. And if you don't say anything, then nobody can get the message. If you're not out there representing a better way of life and helping other people to find that or implement it, then you're not helping anybody, and then the world's not going to get better, and that's not good enough for me. So there it is. Those are my intentions. If you guys got questions for me anytime about like why I do what I do, if you're curious, you're slinging this OPC stuff, why are you always talking about that? Is it a conflict of interest? I can tell you, I'll message you and we'll sit and we'll chat about it. As far as I'm concerned, I'd like to have the whole world have all their needs met for free. And as soon as I'm able to make that happen, I will. And until then, I'm just going to do the best with what we got. And so I hope that people find that encouraging or inspiring or helpful in some way. And if not, you don't have to tune in. There's no hard feelings there. But that's all I got. So I think I'm going to call it here for today. I wish everyone a happy and healthy Wednesday. And we'll catch up with you next week, where I believe we're going to be talking about something I touched on today, which is 3 obstacles to wellness and the different forms they take. So we'll go ahead and hop in on that next week. But you guys take care, and we will see you next time.